Once upon a time in South Africa, there was a big bad record label called Ambitiouz. Fast forward to today, it's nowhere to be found. Let's break down what the fuck happened.
Welcome to Complex Radio, your #1 online radio station. It's us.
And let's just kick things off with this incredibly powerful line from enquiries, who was, of course, one of the label's very first biggest stars. This one sentence, it cuts right to the heart of the whole mess, that personal, psychological weight that defined this entire story. It's all about that clash between making it big and actually being yourself.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, the platinum promise. Then we'll look at the cracks in the gold. After that, it's the contract wars, followed by the aftermath, and we'll wrap it all up with what this means as a cautionary tale.
All right, let's get right into it. To really get why the fall was so brutal, you first have to understand just how massive the rise was. Think back to 2015. Ambitiouz Entertainment didn't just arrive on the scene, they completely blew it up. For a hot minute there, they honestly looked unstoppable. Man, those first couple of years were just a total whirlwind. You had MT's Roll Up, that wasn't just a song, it was a cultural anthem. His debut album, Avery, goes platinum, and he's just sweeping every award show. Meanwhile, you've got A. Reese being crowned Lyricist of the Year. See, they weren't just a label, right? They felt like a whole movement. They owned the charts, they were defining the sound of that entire era.
But here's the thing. While all of us on the outside were seeing this flood of awards and platinum plaques, something much, much darker was going on behind closed doors. For the actual artists who were making all this happen, well, that shiny golden image of the label was starting to show some serious cracks.
And Fifi Cooper, another one of the label's original stars, she just nailed the core problem. She said it wasn't just her. All the artists were talking to each other about this totally bizarre situation they were in. They were famous, right? They were working non-stop, but they had no money. None.
So you've got this crazy split-screen reality. On one side, the public screen. You see platinum albums, awards piled high, songs on the radio 24/7. But then you look at the private screen, and you see artists struggling to get by, having their creative ideas totally shut down by the execs, and feeling that deep, crushing sense of being marginalized that A. Reese talked about. Well, all that dissatisfaction just kept building and building until it finally exploded in early 2017. And it was a move that sent shockwaves through the entire industry. 3 of the label's biggest names, A. Reese, Fifi Cooper, and Benchmark, all announced on the exact same day that they were leaving. This was the first huge red flag for the public that something was seriously wrong inside Ambitiouz.
And that right there, that was the point of no return. Everything that had been bubbling under the surface, the money problems, the creative fights, it was all about to spill out into the open in this massive, incredibly ugly legal war.
Okay, get this. Years later, MT comes out and says that even when Roll Up was literally one of the biggest songs in the entire country, his monthly salary, was less than 20,000 Rand. Think about that. He's being worked to the bone, doing like 6 shows in a single night sometimes, all for a fixed paycheck that had nothing to do with how huge he was. And at the same time, what was the label charging promoters for just one of those shows? A reported 80,000 Rand. The difference there is, it's just staggering. All that value he was creating for the label was completely, totally disconnected from what was ending up in his own pocket. But maybe the weirdest, most telling detail of all came from MT too. He said the label would physically take his awards from him. Can you even imagine that? You win this huge award, you see your name on it, you hold it up, and then your boss just takes it. It just goes to show you how ironclad those contracts must have been, defining even those trophies, those symbols of his achievement as company property.
So, did the label try to talk, to negotiate? Nope. They went nuclear. They hit Fifi Cooper with this unbelievably aggressive lawsuit. And you gotta understand, the goal here wasn't just to win in court, it was to make an example out of her. They tried to stop her from performing her own songs and then tried to stick her with their massive legal bills. Just brutal.
And that lawsuit, that was the last straw for the public. The hashtag boycott Ambitiouz just blew up everywhere. And this wasn't just angry tweeting. People were organizing. They were boycotting shows, they were telling each other to delete music they'd bought and just pirate it instead, and they were mass unfollowing any artist still on the label. The damage to the reputation, it was catastrophic. And honestly, it was permanent.
Okay, so to really get these legal fights, we gotta quickly talk about rights. It's a little technical, but super important. You have masters. That's the final recording of the song. The label owning those, pretty standard. But the real war was over publishing. That's the song itself, the lyrics, the melody. The artists were like, hey, we wrote these, the publishing should be ours. But Ambitiouz's contracts were apparently written to grab control of everything, blurring those lines and locking the artists out completely.
So after these huge public battles with their biggest founding stars, the label just started to unravel. I mean, completely. New fights kept popping up, and it basically became a revolving door of talent. Pretty much every major artist they signed ended up leaving, and almost always in a storm of conflict.
And it's crazy, the exact same pattern just kept happening over and over. Fast forward a few years, there's a new artist in Taba Yase Dubai. He's on that massive hit in Malianini. We're talking a song with over 21 million YouTube views. And what does he say? He says he never saw a single cent in royalties. He was getting by on a monthly allowance of just 3,700 rand. It's the same story, different artist.
And here's the really crucial part. The label's fight for control didn't stop when an artist's contract was up. No way. They went after artists like Black Diamond long after they left, hitting them with copyright claims to get their new independent music taken down from Spotify and Apple Music. They were basically arguing that they still owned them, even after they were gone.
And this chart, man, it really shows you the sobering reality of it all. Yep, a few massive stars like enquiries and MT, they had enough of a name to make it on their own. But for the vast majority of artists who left Ambitiouz, they just vanished. Their careers were either completely stalled or just plain destroyed.
And that brings us to the final tragic chapter. The total and complete ruin of a label that was, for a time, the biggest, most promising thing in South African music.
It's almost hard to believe. In this desperate and honestly kind of sad attempt to stay relevant, the very same label that once minted superstars was reduced to this. Literally posting on social media, begging for YouTube views, and offering people 100 rand to promote their songs.
The public perception just did a complete 180. That awe and respect people had, gone, replaced by just open mockery. This comment really sums it up. Former fans just saw them as a joke, a bunch of comedians on Facebook who had lost every bit of their credibility. So this whole saga, it stands as one of the most powerful cautionary tales in modern music, period. And it forces us to ask a really tough question. And not just about Ambitiouz, but about the whole industry. When ambition and greed trump artistry, what is the real devastating cost of a hit record?